Welcome to my channel, and enjoy watching. She was never supposed to fly that mission, but when 346 soldiers were about to be wiped out in a death trap, one pilot broke every rule to save them. This is the story of Captain Sierra Wraith 7, Landon, the A-10 Thunderbolt II ace who turned a hopeless valley into a miracle extraction. My name is Captain Sierra Landon, call sign Wraith 7. I fly an A-10 Thunderbolt II out of Falcon's Nest Air Base, somewhere in the sun-bleached bones of the Atlas Mountains. If you're reading this, someone decided my story was worth the ink. I didn't tell it for glory. I told it because 346 men nearly died in that valley, and didn't. And that's not because of orders. It's because I stopped waiting for permission. That morning started like all the others. Blazing sun, choking dust, and another day of being politely told to sit down and stay out of the way. I was 27, barely 5'4", with the wrong temperament, according to the brass. Too emotional. Too reactive. Not ideal leadership material, Major Halvorson liked to say. So I spent my days running logistics training flights for junior officers with shinier smiles and fewer questions. I didn't mind the flying. I minded being treated like a placeholder. What they didn't know, what they refused to see, was that I knew this aircraft like a second skin. Every bolt, every tremor in the stick, every fuel imbalance before the gauges told the story. And more than that, I knew the terrain. I'd studied these ridgelines like scripture. I ran late-night simulations when the base lights went out. I trained for the scenario nobody thought would happen. Until it did. At 1:09 p.m., a panic call shattered the usual calm silence. A Joint Special Operations Detachment, Delta Company, had walked straight into a trap. 3 converging ridgelines. No exit. 2 enemy SAM sites online. Radios blinking red across every channel. The QRF wasn't going to make it in time. Hellos couldn't fly into that kind of fire. Fast movers couldn't strike that close to friendlies. But my bird could. My warthog was armed, fueled, and waiting. I already knew the valley. I'd studied it every sleepless night. The math lived in my head. I could see the run before I even reached the cockpit. I had a letter in my locker, one I'd written months ago. The kind of letter you only write if you plan to disobey every standing order. I pulled it out, scribbled one more line. If you're reading this, it's because 346 Americans were left to die by policy. And I wouldn't let them. Then I ran. The moment I stepped onto the tarmac, the sun baked through my flight suit like it was trying to strip the skin from my back. My boots hit the asphalt in rhythm with my heartbeat. Fast, focused, already calculating. Aircraft 912, my hog, was locked and ready. GAU, 8 cannon loaded, full drum, twin Maverick missiles under the wings. I bypassed the checklist with muscle memory. Oil, hydraulics, INS alignment, flare payload, comms override, done in under 90 seconds. I didn't ask for clearance. I keyed guard frequency and set it straight. Guardian control, Wraith 7 departing Falcon's Nest. En route grid 5 Charlie. Delta detachment is pinned. I'm answering the call. Dead air for 2 beats. Then Guardian came back, low and panicked. Wraith 7, you are not cleared. That's a red sector. I copy, I said. I'm going anyway. I hit the throttle. The A-10 roared to life like it had been waiting for this. Wheels up at 1:23 p.m. The valley opened up below me 15 minutes later. Just like I'd imagined. 3 ridgelines curving like claws into a natural bowl. Delta Company was pinned at the bottom, hemmed in by enemy fire, so close I could see the muzzle flashes between their IR strobes. No time to wait. F-16s circled higher up, useless. Rules said no strike within 100 meters of friendlies. Delta's last margin was 50. I flipped to their frequency. This is Wraith 7. I have eyes on. Mark positions with IR. A strained voice came back. Wraith 7, this is Titan Actual. Confirm you're cleared for danger close. I didn't hesitate. Negative clearance. Positive commitment. Mark targets. I dove. First burst. East Ridge, machine gun nest. 2-second tap. Thunder rolled through the canyon. Dust bloomed. Fire stopped. Second run. North slope. Insurgent assault team crawling within 70 meters of friendlies. Quick stitch of 30 millimeters. Silence followed. Tight work. Wraith, Titan called out. Third ridge, 60 meters. Western arc. The place where fast movers got people killed. I lined the reticle under the crest and squeezed. Half-second burst. 30mm fire zipped through air like a giant zipper. Enemy muzzle flashes blinked out. Then came the call I expected. Command net. Halvorson's voice. Wraith 7. Return to base immediately. You are not authorized. I switched him off. I wasn't there for permission. I was there to win the 30-minute war no one else wanted to fight. With command cut out, only 2 channels remained open, CAS coordination and ground comms. That's all I needed. Titan actual, I said, banking hard east. Begin shifting fire teams toward the west fold. I'll clear your path. That fold, barely visible from the air, was a shallow dip on the western ridge. From above it looked like just another wrinkle in the earth, but I'd spent nights tracing its angle, memorizing its slope. If they could move through it, they'd have a way out. Copy, Wraith 7. Came Titan's reply, tight but trusting. We'll move in 3. But first, I had to kill what was hunting them. I massed behind the ridge, popped up just enough to lock onto the first SAM site. Maverick 1 away. The explosion bloomed like a flower of fire. Before the debris even hit the ground, I dipped back behind terrain, skimming the ridgeline to break radar lock from the second missile nest. I came up from a different vector, low, hard, and fast. Maverick 2 sent the second SAM site into the afterlife. Titan actual, your airspace is open. Move. Their voices changed on the radio. Less desperation, more determination. They were moving. In the command center back at Falcon's Nest, the radar painted a single A-10 carving hot steel across a kill zone of red blips. I knew how it looked on the screen, like a ghost slicing through hell. Over the CAS net, one of the F-16 leads checked in. Base, this is Spectre 1. I'm watching Wraith 7 put rounds inside 30 meters. It's either suicidal or surgical. Then a beat. So far, surgical. Inside the ops room, I could picture Halvorson watching the feed, jaw locked, hands tight behind his back. I could almost hear Coleman from the Inspector General's office muttering doctrine. She's breaking engagement protocol. But another voice, Lieutenant Reed, my one quiet supporter, probably pointed to the map and set it straight. She's the only one who can do this. Support her or write the eulogy. Back in the valley, I raked another ridge with short bursts, using the dust as camouflage for the ground team. One burst, then another, pinning enemy gunners while Delta's fire teams crawled forward in bounds. It wasn't flashy. It was craft. It was survival, written in tungsten and sweat. And we weren't out yet. I rolled hard left and came around again, belly low to the western ridge. I could see the lead fire team moving through the fold, heads down, tight formation, trusting me to keep the thunder rolling ahead of their boots. Wraith 7, this is Titan actual. We're moving. Ridge fire's thinning. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Roger that. Stay below the lip. I'll rake 50 meters ahead. Another burst. Another rock face shredded. Enemy silhouettes disappeared into the dust. I didn't talk much on the net. Just enough to steer the fight. No time for ego. This was work, measured, merciless, precise. On the next pass, I spotted an RPG team trying to shift south, trying to flank the escape route. I dropped the pipper low, caught the muzzle flash mid-rise, and answered with a half-second burst that cracked the world apart. South Ridge is cold, I said. Keep moving. On the ground, the rhythm shifted. Titan's voice came back clearer now, less clipped, more like a man back in control of his fate. 3 teams in motion. 4th holding to secure rear. We've got eyes on the mouth of the fold. They were almost through. 2 positions still raking us, he added. Paint 1, I said. An infrared strobe blinked through the haze. I drew a bright, short line across the slope. That position evaporated. Paint 2. Another strobe. Another burst. Both clear, I said. The corridor was open. From overhead, I pulled into a lazy arc, watching the battlefield reshape itself under our combined will. The F-16s, now cleared to strike the outer perimeter, began hammering the hills with standoff munitions. Helicopters spun up. Ground QRF moved like a rising tide toward the zone. In 15 minutes, what started as a death trap had become an organized withdrawal. Back at base, I imagined the final call had been made. I picture Halvorson staring at the map, fists clenched, career balancing against conscience. Then finally, the floodgates opened. Tankers launched. ISR feeds poured into my display. Medevac routes got tied to my corridor. On the net, a new voice cracked through. Guardian control. Wraith 7, this is Falcon's Nest. You're on primary. We're with you. I didn't respond. I was already turning again. Titan Actual, keep pushing. I'm on your shoulder. We weren't finished yet. The corridor was barely a scar across the rock. Thin, winding, vulnerable. But it was ours. And I intended to keep it that way. Titan Actual, I said, voice low over the net. I'm taking the high edge. You push low. Copy, Wraith. We've got 4 teams halfway. 2 more coming fast. From 5,000 feet up, the battlefield looked surreal. Dust churning like smoke. Muzzle flashes blinking in defiance. Blue strobes pulsing with hope. And in the middle of it all, my warthog circled like a vulture with purpose. I caught movement along the upper ridge. Pickup truck, mounted gun, racing to get line of sight on the exfil route. Too far for a Maverick. Too exposed for a rocket. But just right for the GAU. I dipped. Lined a reticle. 1 burst. The truck folded in half. The gunner disappeared into mist. West High is cold, I called. Advanced 2 teams. Titan didn't need to be told twice. Moving. Set. Next bound. Each call-out was tighter now. No fear, just tempo. The sound of a unit finding rhythm in the chaos. The last elements were nearing the fold's mouth when an RPG team flared to life on the eastern spur. Clever angle, hard to see, nearly perfect shot on the corridor. Too late. I flared, pulled hard, and sent a short stitch across their firing point. Dust engulfed them. Eastern offset neutralized. Down below, the last of Titan's squads flowed through the gap, like water finding the lowest path. I didn't have time to feel relief, just focused on the next 10 seconds. Titan Actual, I said. You're at the exit. 2 positions still active on the far lip. Roger. Designating. IR sparks winked through the gloom. 1, 2. I answered each with surgical taps. Short, brutal, final. LZ corridor clear, I confirmed. Call your ride. Rotors inbound, he said. And for the first time that day, I heard it in his voice, the fragile edge of hope. 3 minutes, came the reply from command. 3 minutes. A lifetime in a kill zone. So I stayed sharp. No comfort. No easing off. Just steel in the sky and silence on the ground. The first Chinook appeared like a ghost rising from the canyon floor, blades kicking up brown mist, frame bucking in the heat vortex. I tracked it without blinking. Chalk 1 on approach, the air mission commander called. Copy, I replied. Holding rim. Eyes on. From my perch, I saw the whole chessboard, Delta's men flowing through the fold, scrambling for the LZ, still ducking fire from enemy stragglers clawing toward advantage. Then I saw it. A muzzle flash from a tight rock cluster northwest. Close. Too close. Titan Actual, hold position. I've got it. I sliced a diagonal burst across the stones. Muzzle flash gone. Threat neutralized. Clear. Move. Chalk 1 touchdown. Doors wide. The first sticks boarded in seconds. The second bird followed fast. Its rotors kicked up another blinding cloud. I pushed out further, sweeping for anything with line of sight on the exfil zone. 2 more shooters, low crawl across the ridge. They never made it halfway. 3 tungsten rounds zipped in quick succession, zipper fire. Chalk 2 lifting. Sticks aboard. Each bird that left took a piece of weight off my shoulders, but added pressure to the next. Then came the third Chinook. Heavier. Slower. Burdened with medics and wounded. I tracked his climb like a mother hawk. That's when the seeker tone shrieked. Samlock. High ridge. Final card. But I was already moving. Dropped low. Tight behind terrain. Cut heat signature with instinct and timing. Missile lost its target and slammed into empty rock. I popped up, caught the launch team mid-scatter. Sent a final burst across their cover. Launcher team neutralized. I called. LZ secure. Back below, Titan's final squad sprinted for the birds. Some carried others. Some limped. None stopped. Chalk 4 lifting, command called. All aboard. The last bird took off like a wounded animal with one last trick in its bones. Still, the fight wasn't over. Enemy fighters tried one final charge. Desperate, reckless, rifles raised. I drew a sharp, hot line between them and the liftoff point. The charge crumbled. Titan Actual, I said. You're clear. All units off grid. Only then did I let the stick loosen slightly in my grip. Only then did I realize I was still holding my breath. As the final Chinook climbed into the haze, the valley fell still, not peaceful, not yet, but stunned. Like even the wind had paused to understand what just happened. Wraith 7. Titan actual called, voice now slow and level. The combat edge softened into reverence. All units accounted for. No friendly Kia during exfil. I exhaled, first full breath in an hour. Copy, I replied. I'll hold the high rim until you're clear of the grid. Much obliged. But almost wasn't the same as safe. One last enemy squad, either desperate or fanatical, came sprinting over the northern crest. 12 men, rifles up, boots clawing at the shale. I didn't wait. I dropped low, drew a line of fire sharp enough to cut mountains. A half-second burst, right in their path. Not a single man crossed it. Threat suppressed, I called. Above me, the departing rotors faded into the sky. A sound I'll never forget. Not just escape, but defiance. Life stolen back from death's edge. I circled one more time, scanning every ridge, every rock. No more movement. No more threats. The corridor we carved, 30 minutes earlier a graveyard in waiting, was now just geography. Wounded, burned, but intact. I flipped the command net back on. Falcon's Nest, this is Wraith 7. RTB. A pause. Then Halvorsen himself came on. Wraith 7. He said, voice unreadable, flat. You are cleared direct. Tower standing by. I didn't answer. I just turned east, leveled out, and headed home. Fuel levels, good. One Maverick left. Cannon drum nearly dry. Chaff and flare low. Hands steady. Mind clear. Back at the airfield, the runway stretched ahead like a question. I touched down smooth. Rolled the hog to its bay. Shut down every system by the book. Canopy open. Heat and noise rushed in. And I saw them. They'd all come. Crew chiefs, comms techs, logistics officers, even the medics, lined up along the tarmac in a quiet, unmoving row. No applause. No cheering. Just respect. Not for the machine. For what it had done. And maybe for me. I climbed down slow. Helmet under one arm. Boots on solid ground. Major Halvorsen waited with half the base's senior staff. Coleman from IG beside him. I braced to be chewed apart. You departed without authorization, Halvorsen began. His voice was louder now, meant for all to hear. You disobeyed protocol. You engaged at danger-close distances beyond what doctrine allows. I met his eyes. Didn't flinch. Yes, sir. Then he paused. You also brought home 346 Americans without a single friendly loss during movement. A silence followed, long enough to taste. Captain Landon, he said, softer now. You'll answer for those decisions. Pause again. But today the only thing I want from you is an answer. Can you teach exactly how you did that? Yes, sir, I said. Good, he replied. Because we're going to put it on paper, so the next pilot doesn't have to figure it out alone in a locked simulator at 3 a.m. The weeks that followed were a blur of briefings, inquiries, and review boards. Every question felt like a slow scalpel. Why didn't you wait? How did you know the SAMs wouldn't take you down? What made you think a 27-year-old pilot had the right to rewrite doctrine mid-flight? I answered them all the same way, with math, maps, and method. I walked them through ballistic drift, terrain masking, field of fire overlap. I laid out angles, distances, round burst patterns, threat priority logic. All the things I taught myself in silence while everyone else told me to stay in my lane. Some called it reckless. Some called it luck. But Coleman, the Inspector General, finally set down his pen and leaned back. You broke procedure, he said. But your procedure fit the battlefield better than ours did. Then he added, we won't reward insubordination, but we will correct the doctrine that caused it. No medals. Not yet. Just work. 6 months later, my patch changed. No longer just 30-second air combat. Now it read, CAS Development Group. It was more than a title. It was a message. I began teaching what I'd nearly died proving. We started with terrain, how to read it like language. Every ridge, a clause. Every fold, a question. Every valley, a paragraph of risk. I taught burst discipline, no ego pulls. Half-second taps. Let the dust blind them, not you. Target the anchor, not the shooter. Kill the guy holding the chain, I told them. And the whole formation breaks. I made them train on bad tapes. Misses, misreads, missteps. I showed my own mistakes. No heroics. Just craft. Pilots who used to roll their eyes started taking notes. Quiet ones asked to stay late and learn more. The Marines sent TACs. The Army sent aviators. Special Ops sent survivors from that valley to sit front row. A chalkboard hung in the corner of our briefing room. On it, someone wrote, 346 extracted. 0 Kia during movement. No plaque. No ceremony. Just numbers. Clean. Honest. People touched that board like it was sacred. I avoided it. Not out of pride, but respect. Because I knew it could have gone the other way. I'd seen it too many times before. Good planning. Good flying. Still, the ground takes what it wants. What we won that day wasn't just survival. It was a shift. A turning. Rules, once commandments, now had context. Minimum safe distances became guidelines, not walls. Simulators adopted new drills. We built modules from my notes, my flight path, my logic trees. A-10 trainees now learned how to think, not just follow. And every time a fresh lieutenant stepped in wide-eyed and proud, asking what mattered most, I gave them the same answer. Technology is a promise, not a plan. The plan is you. Know the ground. Know the gun. Know the people under your wings. Because the next valley wouldn't wait for a signature. There were no parades. No press briefings. The write-up came quietly, 5 paragraphs buried in an after-action report titled Unauthorized SAS Mission, Falcon Sector. The summary, pilot engaged without clearance, resulted in full recovery of Allied forces. Recommendations, review and revision of engagement protocols. That was it. But the real consequence? It wasn't reprimand. It was responsibility. After that day, other units began sending questions, not compliments. A mountainous corridor with unreliable wind patterns? I wrote 3 pages on crosswind gunnery and low-altitude entry. A rooftop conflict in urban sprawl. I built an engagement checklist for layered threats and split-angle exfils. A strobe failure during night insertions? I taught pattern reading through thermal clutter and timing-based deconfliction. None of it flashy. All of it useful. Major Halvorsen found me one night in the simulator bay, same one I used to sneak into. He didn't say much. Just leaned on the frame, arms crossed. I was wrong about you, he said at last. I saw a risk where there was preparation. That's on me. I met his eyes, and I stepped outside the lanes. That's on me. He nodded. Then maybe it's time we redraw the lanes. It was the closest thing either of us would call peace. Now I teach. I fly. I study maps not for targets, but for truths. And sometimes, just sometimes, I come back from a sortie to find a letter on my desk. No return address. Just a coin, a patch, or a single line. You showed up. I keep them in a plain box, unopened on flight days. Not because I'm afraid to read them, but because I already know what they say. One evening, I was walking back from a late sortie, sun dipping low, helmet in hand, grease on my collar. One of the crew chiefs, older guy, calloused fingers, eyes like stone, looked up from the warthog he was prepping and gave a quiet nod. Ma'am, he said, voice gravel and warmth. If we ever get pinned somewhere real bad, good to know you've already been where the map ends. I smiled. Map never ends, I told him. Sometimes someone just has to draw the next line. He didn't reply, just got back to work. That was fine. I understood. Some things don't need to be said twice. The warthog sits silent when it sleeps, but I still walk the flight line like it breathes. I run my hand across the titanium skin, fingers skimming over panels I once checked in desperation. I know every bolt by sound, every shutter by name. It's not superstition. It's respect. Some mornings, I still see that valley when I close my eyes. Not the violence, but the shape. The fold in the rock. The ridge where I laid down fire, so close the dust coated Delta's boots. The corridor we carved when no one believed it could be done. They made it back because I did my job. I did my job because I knew the map. But I also knew when to step off of it. People talk about rules, doctrine, authority, and they should. We need them. But the truth is, when everything's on the line, when 346 souls are cornered and bleeding and no one else is coming, you don't look for permission. You become the plan. You aim steady. You trust your training. And you draw the next line on the map yourself. What happened that day didn't make me a hero. It made me a reminder that sometimes the person who's been told to stay quiet is the only one who's studied the problem enough to fix it. That courage isn't volume. It's precision. It's craft. It's showing up when it's easier to look away. We never spoke much of that valley afterward. Not officially, not in the way people expect. But everyone in that room, everyone who touched that mission, they remember. The command structure evolved by inches. Inches that mattered. Inches that keep others alive today. And if this patch on my shoulder means anything, it means that those inches were worth the push. So when new pilots ask me what it takes, I give them the simplest truth I know. Technology is a promise. But the plan? That's you. Learn the Earth. Learn the airframe. Learn the men and women you fly to protect. Because the next time a valley goes dark and the orders don't come, they'll be counting on someone to answer. And when they do, I hope you've already run the math. I hope your cannon's loaded. I hope your hand is steady. But most of all, I hope you remember that the map never ends. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.